Well, Nína, we have been given a quite difficult task to summarize all the things that happened yesterday.
All the things in 2 different rooms.
Yes, yeah. So it's quite difficult to be perhaps schizophrenic. No, just kidding.
Crazy.
Well, yeah. There were 7 various workshops yesterday, and it was both physical and mental actions. Yeah. So we will try to summarize and have some points that we would like to share with the audience that was not present yesterday.
We're going to go in the order of time. So first up yesterday was Trausti Ólafsson with his workshop on psychodrama, where he takes techniques from the theater to deal with mental health and trauma. And in this workshop, he activated the participants, and he asked us why we were here, why are we in this conference, and what drives us to listen to the different viewpoints on the medical model. There were a lot of good points that came out. Some people were there to learn to take space for themselves. Some people wanted a healthy way to express emotion. Some people that were there both because they had been forced in psychiatric care before, or they had been forced because of work to come to this conference. Some people came yesterday to learn, to connect, and others for revolution. And we actually asked a participant to talk about his experience of the workshop, and he said that it was good to be able to see himself as both an insider and an outsider. If anybody is interested in this topic, Trausti, if you could stand up and make yourself visible.
Thank you so much for your engagement. Yeah. And the next? Was I? Yeah. Ragnhild Fugletveit and I, we talked about operating outside the box, and we presented our experiences with implementation of intentional peer support in a Norwegian context. And of course, operating on a field that is really packed with other offers for peer support and service user engagement, we had to find other ways to get to get the words out. So, and one of the visions for this project of implementation is how to take mental health out of illness and back to society. And we try to see how lived experiences can become a resource for working life and society, and have a good language, a Norwegian language, to talk about feelings and mental health. In this project, with the implementation, we also see that it is really important that social innovation also cooperate with research, because we need to see how this, or we need to see prove the effect of the project. So, and it's also important to have many thoughts at the same time, and also think about strategies and to be part of the network. Because you don't know everything, and then it's important to have some cooperation. Yeah.
Very important to have cooperation. Next up, we had a workshop from the Recovery House. They are a halfway house here in Iceland, and their main goal is to get ex-prisoners back into society. So what they use to do this is they offer them access to therapy, they provide peer support in the prisons, they have a sweat lodge, and they do a lot of breath work. And actually in the workshop yesterday, we did some, it's called transformational breath work. Please correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. And it was It was a really nice thing because when you're here at a conference, you're thinking about so many other people. You're thinking about who is coming to present and what they're presenting on, and you're trying to focus on things outside of yourself. And it was my experience doing the breath work that it really brought the focus back to myself and brought the focus to the stuff that's in there that we sometimes don't like to think about and talk about. So for people interested in this topic, could you guys please stand up? Any contacts? It's just Christian right now, but he will be able to put you into contact with the people that had the workshop. Yeah, and then after that, we had a really good workshop on when living isn't possible anymore. We had 3 people that have extensive experience working in NGOs, and their main focus was the demedicalization of suicidality. So instead of looking at suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideations as a symptom of an illness or something that needs to be fixed or something that means that we have to take the person out of the situation they're in and we have to keep them safe, we want to see suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation as an expression of an emotion. And in the workshop, we also talked about causes and outcomes related to mental health, and this was visualized in a really nice way, where we had a tree that had a little bit of rotten roots. The rotten roots could be, for example, capitalism, and the branches could be lower life expectancy, more medicalization, and drugging people and all that good stuff. They also co-wrote a book together, which they presented to us, and they asked the groups to come up with tips and tricks for individuals, for society, and for professionals to work better around the issue of suicidality. And I want to ask you guys to stand up if anybody has interest in their topic. Maybe they had just left, they were sitting somewhere there. There they are, in the back. Fanny, Sigurborg, and Svava. Yeah.
Okay. The next workshop that we are going to present was the workshop led by Demetria. Sorry if I Demetria Simeon. Is that correct? Please wave. The workshop was called Where Do You Come From? Interculturality and Peer Support in Mental Health. And the workshop addressed the cultural diversity of Iceland and some of its implications for the mental health field. It drew some lessons from peer support and how to make mental health care more intercultural. Language and cultural differences were named as the main obstacles that a person of foreign origins living in Iceland is facing when seeking mental health support. Main solutions that were suggested were training in cultural sensitivity for mental health workers, having more peers and specialists in foreign origins in all mental health structures and involving them in designing the services. Multilingual information about the available services. So please stand up and show your face, and if you are interested in the topics, please address you. Okay?
Yeah. And then there was a really interesting workshop, really, really interesting. I recommend it to anyone. It was a workshop that I was a part of. So we were talking about IPS, and IPS is a co-sponsor of this event, of course, and IPS's main mission is the mission of social change, not just in mental health issues, but across the board. In the presentation, we got a little history of the MAD movement. So IPS is, of course, the system that we use to offer peer support in the mental health system in Iceland right now, so in the hospital. And it's really good to know that this comes up from ex-user and survivor movements. So this is not something that's made by professionals for users. It's made by users for users. And then we had Amanda. She talked about her work with young people of color, doing peer support there, and how little problems there were, right, until the funding was cut, which is, of course, always an issue that we have. But we also had a little bit about what IPS, or intentional peer support, entails. So the 4 principles are, is it the 4 tasks or the 4 principles? No.
3 principles, 4 tasks.
4 tasks. So they're connection, worldview, mutuality, and moving towards. I'm trying to not use too much time, so I didn't do the tasks. But I was talking in this workshop, we actually did a little bit of an exercise that showed the importance of the use of language. So how we talk to people that are in distress and what we say to them when they tell us something that makes us uncomfortable is a really has a big impact on not just how the conversation goes, but also the feeling that the other person walks away from the conversation with. But I expect that there's a keynote speech from them on that also. And I talked about my work implementing IPS into the mental health system of Landspítali, which has been going really good. But yeah, anyways, if you have questions regarding IPS, if you 3 could stand up, please. And if you have questions regarding IPS in the Hospital of Iceland, that's me.
Okay, the last one we are going to present is Iceland Recovery College. So please, Helga and Sigrun, could you please stand up and wave to the audience? Yeah, thank you. The Recovery College in Iceland offers various courses that focus on mental health issues, and it's a cooperation between peers and professionals. The workshop yesterday presented the history of the Recovery College in Iceland and how it operates today. And they had the focus on co-production, and they set it out in practice. The question was, what kind of courses could be offered at the Recovery College? The audience could choose from 10 topics. The participants were divided into 3 tables that developed their own course. At the end of the group, the group presented their individual topics. So, co-productions spark of new ideas. That was the main topic, I guess. Yeah. Well.
Super.
Yeah.
I hope we actually used less time than we were allotted. So I'm very pleased to tell you that this is an early lunch.
Yay!